Finally, Arsenal are back in action after an extended break thanks to our FA Cup defeat against Liverpool, meaning that we weren't, of course, playing this weekend. But mercifully, the Premier League is returning with an away trip to a ground we've had plenty of struggles as Arteta tries to overcome yet another bad omen. This is the Arsenal Preview Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode, as I say, of the Arsenal Preview Show, looking ahead to our next fixture, which is away at Nottingham Forest. I hope you're doing good and well. I hope you've had a fantastic start to your week as well, with it being Monday, and then it's treating you well also. Thank you for those joining us live in the chat box. We've got Jimbo and Bakula Rizania, Dagoke, we've got Old Dave, Harry, A1, Rejected Billionaire, Old Dave, Damien, Z, Rancid Pumpkin, ML Reaction. Don't worry about it. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Appreciate your time. As always, with our preview shows, we are joined by members from our Discord server. So let's introduce you to them. First of all, it's been a while, but it's great to see Tom Sable, get back on. I always say Sable, and then Mike always corrects me and says it's Sable. So I'm doing my best, Tom.
Mike, he does get some things right, so that's good. I'm glad he's keeping you on your toes. So how you doing?
Indeed. Yeah, very good, mate. Yourself?
I'm wonderful. It's getting a little cold down here in Florida. For us, it's in the 50s Fahrenheit, so it's chilly for us. So
yeah, we were but off air, we were all marveling at your camera quality, and I'm sure you're going to get some comments in the comment section and the chat box appreciating it as well. So
we're just got it set up as of yesterday. So you guys are the guinea pigs.
There we go. We'll be the guinea pigs. No problem. Also joining us is Dan. How you doing, Dan? You good, Joel?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How you doing? You okay?
It's just a comparison of camera quality of one to the other is like night and day.
It is. It's Tom Canton and Tom HD.
Indeed. And lastly, making up our quartet this evening is Jordan. How you doing, Jordan?
What's going on, Tom? What's going on, guys?
How we doing, mate? Good, Joel?
Doing well. Not as cold over in North Carolina here, but kind of close. Yeah.
What is it over there at the moment? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, we're 50, which is nice. It's good for us here. Yeah.
So that's about 10 degrees here in the UK. So yeah, at the moment it is currently. I haven't been outside at all today. So we've had such a cold. I say cold January, but I saw the news the other day that apparently they recorded the highest January temperature on record, which just doesn't seem right. But I suppose, cold is cold. It is indeed 10 degrees here still as well. So very similar to you at the moment, Jordan, over there. But we've obviously got hopefully something to warm ourselves up with tomorrow night at Nottingham. Of course, a city very close to my heart. And one I'm sadly not going to be at the game for tomorrow. I'm going to be covering it from home before I go to the game this weekend against Liverpool. But maybe that's the omen that we need, because I was at the game last season, which we lost, 1-0, and it's a ground in which we've struggled to get results in. Tom, what do you think the reason has been behind this really frustrating record at the City ground?
It's hard to say because we've done it in the FA Cup, we've done it in the league. I don't know whether it's the lineup. We go in there with the time of year. There's something, a bugaboo about that ground. I don't understand why they have, maybe because they are more likely to try and hit us on a counterattack, and they're going to sit back a lot, and we just maybe we don't have the patience when we're on the road in those games. Other than that, I really don't have an explanation for it. It is kind of sad. But I was at the Forest game this year that opened up the season at the Emirates, and they came back in that game too. We let them back into it. So maybe it's just that team.
Maybe it is. There are some teams, some grounds that just have that effect on teams, and the City ground has been ours. We lost, of course, 1-0 there last season, and then the 2 FA Cup games prior to that, we lost both of them as well. Dan, could you put your finger on anything as to the reason why we've struggled there?
No, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's a bit of overconfidence or maybe complacency, but I think we go there, and I think like with Brighton when they were coming to the Emirates, it's almost like the teams start off a bit like nervous. They don't know whether to commit forward or whether to take their time, and I just think that Nottingham Forest, they kind of grow into the game, don't they? So if you don't hit them in the first 20-30 minutes, they sort of pick up a bit of speed, and they're not, on paper, in terms of the name now, they're not the greatest teams, but when you look at the players, they picked up some good players. Like, that squad is got a good solid core, and I think they're just building around it.
Yeah, they are without some players, of course, because the African Cup of Nations, Jordan, which will be of a benefit to us. They're also going to be without Nuno Tavares, although I think that might do them a favour, actually, more than anything. I don't know if anyone managed to catch the responses to the tweet of when they subbed him in their last FA Cup game. They weren't complimentary, it's fair to say, but they will be without the likes of Ibrahim Sangara, of course, has been a key part of their midfield, and some other players, Serge Aurier, Ola Aina, I think. I'm not sure if he's back yet. I don't think that he is. So they are somewhat lacking in some of their key starters. Is that meaning, though, there's arguably more pressure, though, on Arsenal, Jordan, because the expectation will be that, you know, we should be winning relatively comfortably against a depleted Forest side?
I think it doesn't change anything, because I think the expectation is already super high. I think that they're going to play a low block, and there are teams that play low blocks, you know, because they have to, and that doesn't mean by definition that they're a good counterattacking team, because that's how they're forced to play. But this actually is a good counterattacking team. They're not just in a low block because they have to, because they feel like they're outmatched. This is a team that's actually really good at a low block, really good at a counterattacking, really has good counterattacking players. Elanga, Gibbs-White, or I laugh at Elanga. I feel like Man United have to be looking at that as just a terrible sale with their issues up front. And so I just think of teams that play in a low block, and that doesn't mean by definition they are also good counterattacking teams. This is a good counterattacking team that will play in a low block, and Nuno is only going to reinforce how they play in that regard. And so it's not that I'm super nervous. I just think I have the same amount of nerves as I always do, and just hope that we can break them down.
Indeed. It's also a return, potentially, Tom, of us facing Matt Turner once again, who, of course, you'll know plenty about from his American background. But I've seen plenty of rumours suggesting that Forest aren't very happy with him. They're linked with Gulashi of RB Leipzig as well, about potentially trying to bring another goalkeeper in before the window closes. He made that mistake, I think, in one of their more recent games also that was quite high profile. Is there any narrative surrounding Turner in this game, or is he just a part of the fabric now?
He's just part of that fabric, because he had one token year with us that was good, and from the Kroenke standpoint, being an American, you know, that might be a part of the story. But I've always liked him, but he's not. I don't think he's at the right quality to be in the Premier League. It barely was enough to be a second string keeper on Arsenal, and he shouldn't be starting, I don't think. Didn't they try to get Henderson back at one point, and they couldn't do it? So
yeah,
and so
went to Palace, didn't they?
Yeah, he wasn't the answer even when they signed him over the offseason. So he's very good at making the critical, crazy saves, but he does have some howlers in there, and he does make some serious mistakes where it usually tends to cost a team like Forest. And I'm hoping that we can, because that's, Jordan was saying about nerves and everything. I'm not so nervous about Forest. I'm nervous about our efficiency. So if we can just get him, flustered, I think we'll be all right. But we have to be efficient in front of a goal and in the final third, because we haven't been very efficient.
No, we haven't, although we did score 5 in our last game, but that was certainly a kind of change of the mold of what we'd come to expect over the festive period where we struggled. Do you feel like, Dan, that was an anomaly in terms of the form, or do you feel like it was a response that we're expecting to push on from?
I think it was a bit flattering, to be honest. I think if you read the stats, it was like 18 shots and we only had 6 on target. Was it close to that? And it seems to have followed the same trend as the last couple of league games, where we're hitting sort of 20 to 25 shots on target. But I mean, shots taken, but we're not getting even a fifth of those on target, let alone converting them. So, as I said the other day in the Discord, we need to start learning how to score ugly goals, because I feel like when we get into that position, they're still looking for the pretty finish or the immaculate finish, as opposed to just squaring across the box and someone just tap it in. Because playing against a low block, that's the first goal you need. Breaks them up, doesn't it? You get the first goal in and then they have to come out. And I think that's where we struggle. They sit in deep, and when we do get that chance, we're just not burying it. it just needs to be ugly, and I'm all for that.
Yeah, just get the points. At the end of the day, that's what's going to matter at the end of the season. It's not going to matter how you won a league title as long as you got the points to be able to do it. Jordan,
Agreed.
this game is being talked about, I think, in the shadow somewhat of what we've got to face this weekend as well with Liverpool. Are you worried about the danger of that Liverpool game being something of a distraction tomorrow night?
No, I think that's something that fans do. I think Mikel's got them laser focused into this game, and they're equally important. Something I've always heard when Arsenal fans and players get critiqued for over celebrating, maybe is the Luton win, and there's all this rhetoric about Arsenal fans over celebrating. What I don't think those people understand is that if you're going for a title, every single game is equally important. And so every single game is a cup tie, is a final, is points that you absolutely must have. And so if you look at it through, we absolutely must have these points, and you have a circumstance like Luton where we almost don't have them, and then we steal them back. That is something to celebrate, like a Liverpool wins. It's the same 3 points for a team that needs every single point they can get. I don't think there is such a thing as over celebrating. We need every single point.
No, we do. The over celebrating thing is just such a childish criticism. I think it's football. Enjoy it. Like, I don't really know why people need to temper expectations or temper people enjoying or celebrating games of football. It's such a strange strategic move by any pundit or critic to use. I think football is something to be enjoyed. It's something which you enjoy with other people, of course. So yeah, go mad, celebrate a win over whoever you want to celebrate. It's I know I'm saying that ironically after kind of criticizing Anthony, if you like, for celebrating how he did against Newport County, but I think there's context to things. Sometimes I think that
he deserves some criticism, though.
Jeez, oh my
God. I say celebrate, but I celebrate maybe with the context of understanding what happened in that game, Anthony, rather than celebrating like that against the League Two side. But I suppose.
But he also celebrated like he put it top bins.
Say again.
I said he also celebrated like he put it top bins. It deflected off the post and hit his leg and went in.
Again, context is king, always. Tom, it sounds like Thomas Partey is not going to be in the squad. Mikel Arteta said in his press conference that he's not yet ready. He has been pretty, what's the right word? I don't want to say he lies about things, but he's deflected away from the truth, let's say, at times in his presses about player fitness. However, I think it would be a surprise now, considering he flat out said he wouldn't be in the squad. So how do you feel about that, considering we've seen Partey in training, since last week? Arsenal took the time out to put pictures dedicated to showing fans that he was in training, and now he's not in the team. So it's a little bit of a strange one.
Yeah, it's some weird marketing ploys there. I don't understand how they'll do that. I mean, we can see right through it. In the United States, we call somebody like that in witness protection. They're being protected because they're somewhere in hiding from the mafia or something. But because we haven't seen much of them other than these photos that we don't know if they're actually doctored or not. So, for Partey, from what I understand, is he's not even going to make the trip. That's what I heard. I don't know where I can source that at, but I remember hearing that earlier today. And it's sad because we've went through all this, the little break we had in January, the beginning of the end of December, early January, where we had a little bit of time off. And then we see the pictures, and then we're coming back from that break. Then we have another little break here where it's like 10 more days between games. And yet the standard is they're still not going to see Partey. Yeah, he's an invisible man at this point. It's hard to rely on somebody like that.
Yeah, of course. And I think that might be one of the reasons why Arsenal make the decision in the summer that Partey's time at the club could be coming to an end, because of the uncertainty around his availability. It's such a problem for us. And when we're linked with someone like Martin Zubimendi, of course, who doesn't suffer with the same problems, it would be much more within Arsenal's interest to have a player that's available as to one that isn't. Dan, two other injury concerns are Declan Rice and Gabriel Magalhaes. Arteta has suggested that they're in the running for this game, which usually is a good sign when he says things like that. So the hope is that both of them could indeed be there. But is this a game in which you can afford maybe to be a bit cautious? And if you're not 100% with those players, rest them, bring in a Jorginho or bring in a Kivior to those defensive midfield or left centre back positions, or is it a risk that we can't afford to take?
I think it's a bit of both, isn't it? I think we can't afford to take the risk, but we're also in a position where we don't take the risk. We could put targets on Kivior's back and on Jorginho's back to say, well, you've come in and you ain't good enough, which then brings up that whole the backup aren't good enough. So I think he will make a decision. If they're 90% fit, they're going to start. And maybe he'll just have Kivior and Jorginho on backup just in case we can get a decent lead in and then sub them out. I suppose Rice will probably be number one to be brought off the pitch with Gabriel closely following. But yeah, I think it's a risk if we don't do it. I think no matter what happens, he's going to run the risk of being attacked by the media for not making a decision, did make the decision. So I think you should just go with whoever's the fittest, put them in, bring them off when needed. And yeah, as I said, it's time to win ugly, even if that means bandages on legs, bandages around the head, you know, bit of glass on the old bandage as well.
Yeah, look, I think that when it comes to risking players, always in a title race scenario, you're kind of leaning on the side of caution. But can we afford not to play Declan Rice? If you can play him for 60 minutes, play him for 60 minutes and take him off. We need to get the most out of the players that we can. But, you know, if you start them and then they're injured, you know what happens. Arteta gets absolutely blasted for risking them. So you can't win. Yeah, very frustrating indeed. Jordan, the other narrative point of this game, before we go on to our lineups, is, of course, from Arteta's presser. He was asked quite heavily about his future and the reports around suggestions, we should say, that he was going to be leaving at the end of the season. I really liked his response. I liked how blunt and honest and emotional he was in how he said it was fake news and that it was really upsetting to see these kind of things taken out of context or just fabricated in this case. What did you make of how he reacted to it and how he dealt with it? And how do you think it would affect the game tomorrow? Do you think it provides any motivation for him and the team?
I appreciate his directness because I think it's not a mystery that's not a link that makes no sense whatsoever in a bubble in isolation. I think Mikel will probably manage at some point in the Spanish Premier League. And I think at Barcelona seems like a team that, I mean, it seems like a match that could happen in the future. And so I think it came out of nowhere in the sense of journalism trying to just rile up Arsenal fans or make a link that makes sense without thinking about any of the actual context of that this won't actually happen. So I appreciate him squashing it because I think on some level, the average fan who might, whatever, someone who's not like maybe on the pulse of the fact that this won't actually happen could be lured into thinking it would happen. So I appreciate him being very blunt about it on something that, you know, makes some sense in an alternate universe.
Yeah, it does. I think that the idea that this would give Arsenal a little bit of motivation, of course, to kind of back their coach and you know, support him in a period in which obviously he's been very frustrated, and just kind of keep the football to do the talking is going to be really important. So let's jump into our teams. Tom, we start with you. Talk us through your selection and your reasons as to why.
Very interesting, I think, this lineup because with the crapshoot that it is with the injuries and the what Arteta is saying and what might happen. I went with the Kivior and Saliba center back pairing because I think that Magalhaes is going to get a break. G6 is going to have to sit down, I think, and just we need him for Liverpool. So if he's close, I'd rather have Kivior play because Kivior will play his natural position, and I think he'll do much better there. Zinchenko seems to be fine, and I have Rice and Jorginho in there to kind of almost double pivot there. The interesting part is, and I think I agree with you on this from earlier on one of the other shows where you talked about Trossard wanting to, you can't take him out. He scored two, but Martinelli scored two. So I kind of want to see where Trossard comes in. You get him about 60 minutes, then you get Martinelli because you want to have him ready for the weekend as well. My probably controversial pick is Havertz, but I differ. I'm probably one of the few in the minority here that thinks that Havertz, aside from maybe like 3 games, I think he's been pretty solid across the board, but that's for another discussion,
I
probably.
don't think you're that far wrong, to be honest. I really don't.
And then, but Havertz, I think that putting him up top there, I think that gives a chance to put Jesus out on the right. He's been struggling a little bit with his clinical finishing and being he's always good on he makes everybody better on the pitch. And this gives us a chance to get Saka a little bit of a break. I'd still like to see Saka come on probably for Jesus with 20, 30 minutes left in the game. I really want to try and get like I think Dan was saying it about that ugly goal, getting that fox in the box kind of a dirty, grimy goal. I'd like to see Havertz get one early, whether it's a header or something that's not pretty. And then for us to be able to then have them to have to come out and have to really force the issue. And then I think we'll probably be able to have our way later in the game, hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the point on Havertz, it's not right. People really slam Havertz. The reality is that you're right. In terms of bad games that I can think of him having, like, they don't stand out to me. Like, I don't sit there and think, oh, he was awful during that game. But I can actually give you like performances in which I thought he did well. Like, I thought he did well against Liverpool in the FA Cup. He was just a goal away, I thought, in that game from a good display. You think about the game that he had when he came off the bench against Brentford, of course, the game he had against Brighton when he scored. Say again, sorry?
Luton, he was a part of all four goals. So
he was excellent in that game. So, yeah, I think there is a debate to be had about Havertz, but he's not delivered necessarily what maybe we would have wanted from a £65 million signing, which I think is the crux of the issue surrounding him. Dan, talk us through it, mate.
I think I've gone for the bog standard every week 11. I'm going to take a leaf out of Tom's book there. Like, I like the idea of Jorginho in the holding, but I just feel like he's going to put Havertz ahead of Jorginho. And if Rice, as I said, is 90% fit, he will start him. So same back line, including Raya. As much as I would love to see Ramsdale, I don't think I'm part of the crowd which is Ramsdale or Raya. I would actually like to start seeing them rotating now. Like, give him a couple of games in a row, see what he can do, and just keep them both happy, because we're out of the domestic cups. And I don't see Ramsdale starting the Champions League next fixture. So why not give him a couple of the lower fixtures in the league? And then I want Trossard to start ahead of Nelly. I think Martinelli coming on, super sub, bags of pace, would be a nightmare for them. Especially if Eddie comes on late as well. Like, as much as I criticise Eddie for his involvement in the games, I think if he comes on and plays as a second striker, up there with Havertz ghosting in or Jesus up there, I reckon we'll finish the game strong. But this game is definitely going to be about Havertz and his late runs. If he can put away half the chances he creates or fashions, we'll be in a good place.
Lovely stuff. And going to lastly, Jordan.
Yeah. I have this is maybe our like stock standard. Everyone's fit. Mikel's, maybe first 11 here. And I can see where Dan and Tom were making some of the changes. I think you could be fine putting Trossard at left wing. I think it's kind of a nice thing that Martinelli came on and scored those goals, because if Mikel wants to do this and start Martinelli, then it's defensible. I think if Martinelli comes on and maybe, shows some flashes but doesn't score and then starts this game, that doesn't necessarily send the right message, but I think it's defensible. And I think behind closed doors, a conversation can be had where you're not making Trossard upset in some way, disgruntled. And from a Havertz perspective, I might have the Mikel stubborn gene to some degree, where I really think it would actually work. And I came on the phone-in show and talked about this, where the point of Havertz, I believe, those late runs into the box. And if you're going to, and I think of it mostly in what we might call the half court offense for people who watch basketball. It's like when there's a set defense, not in transition. And anytime a ball goes to Saka or Martinelli, they're getting doubled automatically. The way we're going to break people down is recycle, throw the ball to the back bar to Havertz, where if you want to take somebody out of the middle to go guard Saka or Martinelli, you're leaving Havertz one-on-one, Jesus one-on-one, Martinelli one-on-one at the back stick. And it's there. We need to play that ball, because I don't think we've proven that we're going to break down a fully set defense with just some super slick passing. And so I really want to lean into that. And if Rice is not fit, I'm super nervous about just having Jorginho in there by himself as a holder. I honestly don't know what I would do. Maybe I'd put Kivior at left back and play that kind of, I'd put Odegaard at the left 8. I'd play a 4-2-3-1 double pivot. But yeah, I'd be really nervous. Jorginho would make me nervous as the holding 6 in a team that's going to thrive on transition. I've seen people run by him and just reaching at thin air. And so that would make me a little bit nervous, but we'll see. I mean, I hope Rice is ready to go at least for a little while.
Yeah, no, I think you raise fair points. You know, in my team, I've got Jorginho, not necessarily sitting, but obviously I think being supported by Rice and pulling those strings. It depends on the game that Arsenal play. If they're able to suffocate Nottingham Forest into their own defensive third, then hopefully that escape won't be a problem that we need to deal with. We have a very quick defence as well with Saliba and of course Kivior on White, who aren't slacking by any means. And Rice, of course, gets back excellently when he needs to also. But I do see the concern for sure. And I think that Saka needs to have a fantastic game and needs to rediscover his form and his confidence and his feet as well in terms of his goal scoring, because I can't have Chelsea fans trying to claim that Cole Palmer is somehow better than Bukayo Saka, which is some ludicrous thing I've started to see spewed over my timeline in the last few weeks. You know, a team has a bad patch, and yet all of a sudden the guy that's got close to 20 goal contributions this season is suddenly not as good as Cole Palmer, which is just madness. But yeah, it's something that needs to be put in the bin quite quickly. And Saka, it's down to Saka himself to be able to respond to that, and he needs to do that, I think, in this game, going into a really important game against Liverpool. I've not risked Gabriel either. I don't know if indeed. I think if he travels, I think he starts. You know, I only think that he won't be in the team if he's not fit enough to be in the squad entirely. It's always with centre backs. I feel as though if you're taking a centre back and there's a fitness thing, you're starting them. Whereas it's not like a forward player that you bring on for like the last 10 to 15 minutes if that's all they can give you. So yeah, that's an intriguing one to consider. But if he's not fully fit, I wouldn't risk him and just rest him for the Liverpool game at the weekend, which is, of course, something that it's very difficult not to get out of our minds when talking about this game. But we are going to continue by doing that and predicting our scoreline. So, Tom, we start with you, and chat box, you can respond in the chat box. Scoreline and scorers, please.
I think we're going to have 4-0 to the Arsenal. I think that you're probably going to have a goal by Jesus. You're going to have 2 goals by Rice and a goal by Havertz.
Dan?
Well, I was close to the last game when I said 4-0. I think this one will be a little bit closer. I'm going to say 3-1. I think Elanga somehow, some way will creep one in. But I hope Havertz gets one. I think Trossard will bag again. And I think Jesus will surprise you. I bet he scores a header tomorrow on against Forest. I'm sure he will.
No, we'll have to wait and see. And Jordan?
I've got 2-0. I think that second half of that, the nil part, is the more important part against a team like this. And I think that we're going to keep our corner kick streak going here. I think Saliba will put one in from a corner. And I just absolutely would love to see Havertz get one at the back stick and just kind of reinforce that that's what he's here for, and that's a way we can break down these teams. Sounds
good. I'm just checking about Anthony Elanga. I don't know if he was in their 11 for their last game. No, he wasn't in the squad for the game against Brentford. So
long may it continue.
Yeah, hopefully he's not in the squad again because he is a decent player. I agree with you, Dan. I think he is. I'm going to go with 3-1. I think I said on FK show last night, so I'll go with 3-1 as well. Chris Wood probably will score a header from a corner or something like that to get their goal. And I'll go with one from Ben White, obviously being a screamer, and Gabby Jesus and Bukayo Saka, just to get one on the score sheet for him would be great to see as well. Mark says 3-1 to Arsenal. Havertz, Trossard, Saka. Jimbo says 2-0 Arsenal, Trossard and Jesus. Jean says 5-0 hat-trick with Havertz, and then Ketia with 2. Aditya says 5-0. James says 3-0 Saliba, Havertz and Odegaard. Paul says 3-1 Arsenal. Jason says 2-0. I hope to Arsenal as well. Ian says 1-0 win, real tough game, or a 2-1. They're such a powerful team in transition. Gibbs White and their strikers Alanga are absolutely scary and a handful, and their captain Yates is also very good. Amira says a nervy 1-0 OG from Matty Turner to keep our title hopes alive. Steve Stone says 2-1 Arsenal, Havertz and Saka. Jared says 3-0 Saka, Jesus, Havertz. Maximia says 2-0 and don't worry about it. Says 1-0 as well. Thank you so much for listening to today's preview show. And Chatbox, thank you for tuning in live. Do drop a like on the video and subscribe if you're new. Matt, who am I saying Matt? I know why I'm saying Matt. It's because in the chat box I'm seeing a Matt. Tom, that's twice. I feel like I've gone down the wrong name path in one show. Tom, thank you for your time. Always an absolute pleasure to catch up with you. It was nice to see you at our live event last time as well in London. Tell people they can find you and what you're going to be up to.
Well, you can find me at Sir Sable, and at most of the social handles are going to be at Sir Sable. Or if you are in Tampa and you want to come down to see some games, I run the Gulf Coast Gooners in Tampa. So come on down.
Absolutely. Lovely stuff. Who's the game show host that said, come on down? That's stuck in my head now.
Monty Hall from the old,
Yeah.
Let's Make a Deal, I think.
Lovely stuff. Dan, come on down and tell people where they can find you, mate.
Yeah, so Discord, as always, I'm popping up here, there, and everywhere. I'm on Twitter, X, 2 handles. I've got my black and white cannon where I throw my not so needed opinion about Arsenal everywhere on there, like comment on everyone's comments. But also on YouTube, my Vegan Vital Kitchen. As I said, I started that 2 weeks ago. It's going really well. And after we finish here, I will be releasing the second video. And this weekend after the poll, lasagna is on its way.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I love that. So lasagna is definitely one I'm going to be able to get on board with. I think I'm looking forward to that. So I might even have to try it and send it your way to see how it goes.
Happy, mate. Send
if
it.
you can send me a calorie breakdown as well, that'd be great.
Put it this way: it's high protein, high in complex carbs. No, very little starch. If you're training, it's perfect.
Good to know. I'm looking forward to it. And you can check out Dan's channel, as he says, Vegan Vital Kitchen. Make sure you go and give it a watch. And lastly, Jordan, thank you so much for joining me, mate. Tell people they can find you.
I appreciate it. You guys, if you're into health and fitness content, I'm on Instagram at Jordan Lips Fitness. You guys come and hang out.
There we go. We got vegan content. We got health and fitness content, and we've got the Gold Coast Gooners as well. So he's right, Gold Coast. Am I saying that right?
Gulf Coast.
Yeah,
we're on the Florida Gulf Coast.
Gulf Coast. See, I've just messed up everything today. I'm not on it. It's why I shouldn't do these shows right after my shift. It's just not the way forwards at all. But thank you, everyone, for listening. Do appreciate your time. Make sure you give the guys plenty of love in the comment section, the chat box as well. I'll be live tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Bright and early as usual. We'll also have a breakdown, of course, the game against Nottingham Forest the next morning after that. So Wednesday, which of course will also be having a phone-in show around this time, talking about Mikel Arteta's contract situation. And then on Thursday, it's deadline day. So we'll have a big chat about absolutely nothing that we've done. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. But do drop a like, as I say, subscribe if you're new, catch up on this morning's morning show if you haven't done so already. And as always, up the Arsenal.